the host again. So Chad, if you can, and again, with anyone here, I set up your dashboard and I said, you can log in this way. So everybody should be able to log into their dashboard with the email that you provided me. So if you want to have that up on a separate screen or something and try to do this along with us, you certainly can, and kind of work your screen as Chad and I give an example of what it's like to do this. You certainly can. If you'd rather just watch and try to learn through how we're having a conversation, write down questions, you can do that. And then I'll send you the video as well. And then you'll have a resource to be able to go through it and check it at your own pace in the way that you want to. Yeah, so everybody should have, this look on their own dashboard. And I'm excited to show you guys kind of the workflow. We're going to build, a sample coach in here. So I kind of want to take you through the process. If at any time you have a question for me about how does this work, or how does this work, or what does that do, please just let me know. This is a time for you to be able to ask those questions, and don't feel like you're, impeding the progress or anything like that. Most people probably have similar questions. So feel free to pipe in at any time that you need to. So Chad, the first thing that we'll do is we'll create a coach. Okay, so if you can go to the new coach button there and click on new coach in the left-hand side. Now, as you do that, I want everybody to see that currently his spring dashboard is open, but it's winter evaluation season. So typically the winter season will be open right now. And then in May, it will switch over to spring because that's when the spring evaluation season kind of starts. So I have this set up so that it's by evaluation season. So we're going to quickly create a coach here. So if you click new coach, Chad, and we put in sample, just put in sample coach. And then for sport in the drop down, you just scroll down and click sample coach or sample sport under S there. Yep. So click that. And then just click that button over there. Yep. And you'll be all set. So go to all sports tab there next to fall, winter, spring. So now we've got this button, start evaluation. So Chad, if you click start evaluation a minute, you'll see kind of what comes up on the right by sample sport coach there. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. Let me see if I can. Yes. So so here's what you'll get. Now, if you add parent evaluations to this, you'll have a third link set in there too. That's for parent. So what we're going to do real quick, just to show you how this works, is I'd love for Chad, if you can click on if you can just click away, hit close a minute. You can just click on that student link right at the top here, right by the yellow stop evaluation button. It says student evaluation at this link. And then what I'm going to do is, and hold on a second, what I'm going to do is go to the coach one and I'm going to fill it out for my computer. And so what we're going to do is just basically click through this real quick, just so you can see what it's like for the view of a student to see the evaluation. I'll do the coach one. And then Chad, for you, you can put in kind of whatever answers you want. It's just kind of whatever, just put it in so that we have data to go through. Does that make sense? Okay. So you can go ahead and click sample coach. Now, if you have 3 coaches in baseball, a freshman, a JV, and a varsity, all 3 will show up and the kids will just click the coach that they have, and then they'll hit select. Okay, so go ahead, hit select there. And then the kid has to enter their name. So it will not let them go forward if they don't enter their name. To this point, I haven't had a student put in like Mickey Mouse or something just to get away with putting in a survey and people not knowing who they are, but I guess you never know. So yeah, they got to put their name in there in order to do the survey. So you can just put in a name of some student or put your own name in, Chad, whatever you want to do. And then from my end, while he's doing that, you all can look through what his workflow looks like once he hits submit. And he's just going to click on those buttons. Yep, so he's clicking through. Now, if you're on a cell phone, this shows up right on the cell phone. It fills the whole screen. It works to that. So he can also put in, just a couple data points here, Chad, if you want. It can be just gibberish, or you can actually write something. It's totally up to you. Again, this is just a sample. Now, all of the questions that you see under these written sections can all be edited and changed based on what you want for your school. This is just a stock evaluation that I populate for you that works. Okay, Chad, so you can go to that tab at the top and hit the X on it, the one that's highlighted up at the very top on your toolbar. And then it should bring this up. So now if you just hit refresh, you'll see those 2 things that we did will populate, and it says student 1, coach 1. So, you know, if you're doing basketball, you're probably going to have 12 and 1, right? You'll get the numbers in it, so you'll know exactly how many people did it. So if you want to check who did it, or you think you've got all the data and you want to get going with the next step, all you have to do is push stop evaluation. So if you push stop, go ahead, Chad, in the yellow. Now you say that the button down there says see student comments. So basically the system prompts you to look at the qualitative data. So if you go to the see student comments button, it's going to pull up. And now at the top there, there's that show names button, Chad, under written response. It says show names. So you click that and you can see which kid put in which answer, which is always helpful, because if you've got somebody who you know is trying to mess it up, or they're going to purposely do something to try to mess with this, I'll show you how we can delete their data out later so they don't skew the results, okay? But you have that if you want to use it. So what you're going to see there with like 12 teams is that under what I appreciate most about Coach is you're going to get 12 different comments. You're going to want to read those. I never like quote anybody, because if I quote somebody, the coach might be able to know based on that quote who said it. And I want the kids to feel like they have confidentiality in this, so they'll give us good answers. So we'll write qualitative or summary data into that box. So Chad, you could put in, if you had 12 answers there, you'd put in maybe 2 or 3 themes that you heard. So you can just type something in that box right now. Whatever we type in that box is what will show up on the screen. You can do that for all of them. And again, these questions can be changed to whatever you want. I have some schools that are like, which of the 12 pillars did your coach, most impact you with, or whatever. Okay. Now, if you have a parent eval set up on here, I know one person was really interested in the parent side. Then after you click submit comments there, like Chad did, it will take you to the parent comments, and you can do the same thing with the parent comments. Okay. So once you've done that, this is kind of the output that you'll see on your screen. Now, Chad has a very zoomed out view, so it's kind of hard to read everything, at least on my screen. But what you can see on the right there is the student averages. So every kid that entered the student score, their averages will come up on the left. And what the coach wrote would be on the right. So what we're looking for is, perception is reality, right? It doesn't matter what the coach is trying to do as much as what the kids are receiving from the leader. And so what we want to see is those numbers close together. It means that the coach is, number one, seeing themselves realistically to what they're giving an output of to the kids. We want that to be the same. It doesn't matter if the coach thinks they're awesome and they're actually not. It matters that they're the same. And then second, we want to try to move those numbers as high as possible, because that means we're succeeding at a higher rate, reaching kids in the categories as you see on the left. So one way that we might do it, like a point of concern here would be like the student score one says 1.7, about the 6th one down, and the coach score says 10. And that would be the coach expects us to conduct ourselves with a high level of integrity and character during our on-field performance. The kids do not feel that the coach is requiring this of them in any way whatsoever. They probably feel frustrated about it. But the coach is saying to the AD, no, I nail this. So that's a big point of contention. We usually don't see gaps that big, but I'm just using that as an example of like, now we have an opportunity to communicate about this. Before, it would be you having to accuse the coach of not doing this well, and then you get in a defensive situation. Now the students are able to tell you what they're feeling, and you're able to sit next to this coach and brainstorm about ways to shrink that gap. So that's kind of the beauty of this style of evaluation from a teaching standpoint, is no longer are you pointing out the flaws, the students are pointing out the flaws, making perception reality, as we talked about in that breakout at the MIAAA. So Chad, if you scroll down a little bit, so you'll see that in the 2 categories. Then you see the athlete comment summaries across from the coach summaries. These questions don't have to match. You can edit them in whatever way you want. You can add 12 written questions if you want to. I can make that your personal template, whatever is necessary for your school and what kind of information you're trying to glean. The next thing you'll see is that grid. In our session, I talked about Angela Duckworth, and one of the things that she talks about is wise leadership. This intersection of expectations and relational warmth. And so obviously the goal is for us to be wise, empowering, transformational leaders, which are people that are high expectations with a high amount of relational warmth. That's that top right category. It's unnatural for most to be able to marry those 2 things together on a regular basis. What is natural is that we often have a lot of authoritative leaders, meaning high expectations, but colder, threatening, if you don't do this, then this, and if you're not going to behave this way, then I'm going to sub somebody in for you. And we get kids to do what we want by being threatening in some way. And that's usually what you'll see to the left of that high expectation line. And on the bottom right corner, that would be somebody who's more of like a friend or a permissive leader. Somebody who, in order to be liked or feels like for them to lead well, they have to lower the expectations so kids like it. And if they like it, then they'll be able to lead them. And we would call that a permissive leader, okay? And so those are the two most common, and the one we're striving for is the wise leader. And so it's a visual representation of kind of Angela Duckworth's data that we can put our coaches and the kids' perception of the coach into those two spots for a discussion point. So that's the grid. It's on there. You don't have to pay attention to it, but it's certainly something that we teach about when I do trainings with coaching staffs and talking about leadership development. On the right is the administrator comment. So Chad, this is where you could type in some things like, hey, when you reschedule matches, you got to let me know about that. When some of those things where you intersect with the coach in a way that you want to build them up or have correction in some way. And then the bottom two boxes are parent comments, which if you don't have the parent survey, it's just a box where you can put things in if you feel like you want to give feedback on what you've heard from parents, or maybe you do a different kind of parent survey, you could put some of those things in there. If you don't fill anything out, nothing will show up. And same thing with coach commitment. Some schools have a requirement to have like a plan of correction, or they want to document the things that they covered. And so that box is there for you to be able to document those things so that they're in your filing cabinet for the coach and on record. If you don't use that, it's okay. It will be blank. So that's kind of what the output of information is. And that's if you have 70 players on your track team or football team, or if you have one player, it comes out that quickly, that simply each time. Question. So Chad, if we go back to athlete comments, you can always go back in there. So if you click on athlete comments again, just above the grid, you can go back in and you can relook at those at any time. It's never closed. It's never sealed. You're never in trouble because you decided to do some comments and then hopped out of it. So you can just click save and view again. And now the other thing I want to show you is on the top here, individual responses. So if you click that yellow button at the top, this is where if you know you've got a couple kids who are spicy about coach, who maybe tried to mess it up. Right now you see a 1 highlighted in blue. If you have 74, there will be 74 numbers, and you can click through and see which kid did it, because if you know Jimmy Thomas is going to give coach some grief, and maybe Jimmy just put in all zeros because he didn't like coach, that's going to skew our data because it's not real. So you can delete that by hitting the red delete button. I don't want you to delete your info, Chad, but you can always delete somebody out. And what we always tell kids is like, hey, you spent 4 months participating in this sport. Give us 15 minutes to help the program. If you're not going to do that and you're just going to put all zeros or something like that, or all 10s or something like that, we're just going to delete your response and have you come do it again. So you can do it right now, or you can do it right later, but we really appreciate your partnership to help build our programs. So that's kind of a little tip that we have, and also a way to get rid of outlier data, if that makes sense. So Chad, you can click outside the white box. And the next thing I'll show you is the print function. So how do we get this to coaches? So right between the green and the yellow there at the top, you'll see print. And whatever system you have, whether it's Microsoft or whatever, this is kind of what your printout looks like. If you do that little at the bottom there, that PDF button on the bottom left, and you do save as PDF, that's typically how we do it. We'll save it as a PDF. And then send that to the coach over the weekend or something. Say, hey, we got your meeting Tuesday. We really look forward to going over some of these numbers with you. So much good information here for us to build our leadership. Looking forward to the conversation. Because if we give coaches all this data right at the meeting, they ain't going to pay attention to a word we say. They're going to be going through that data like crazy, right? So the best thing to do is give it to them ahead of time. So you can just save it and send it out. And then if you want to print it, obviously you can. If you want to have a hard copy on hand, you certainly can. So if you want to close that tab at the top again, Chad. And so let's say like what Jason does at our school is once he sends that out to everyone, what he does then is he brings his computer to the meeting and he opens up this page. So now they can talk about it and the coach has their hard copy. And as they're talking about things, he might scroll down here and add some things that like, oh yeah, we want to make sure in the coach commitment section, oh yeah, you want to read this book. Okay, let's read this book together. Or, okay, you want to try to do these things in the off season. He'll just type them in. This form is always live that you can always go back into it. Okay, and always use it. You can adjust your administrator comments, things you want to make sure are on the record in there of that came up during the thing. So you can always type this. You can always type this live. If you go back to the dashboard, Chad, we'll go through one more thing here, and go to all sports on the left. So now you see under sample sport that there's two options. You can start a new evaluation, or you can continue a past evaluation. So first thing, let's say that I looked at, don't touch anything yet, Chad, but the first thing is like, okay, I've got 7 of my 14 kids did it. I wanted to see who those 7 were. So you stopped the evaluation and you went in and you looked at the individual responses like I showed you. Okay, I've got these 6 kids that still need to fill it out. So I'm going to continue past evaluation. So if you click on the yellow button, Chad, this will now, and you hit continue. This will now reopen that same survey and more students can put their answers in, okay? Or the coach can do it. So if you ever want to check on your data and how it's going, you can always stop it, and then you can always continue it again and accept more responses in, okay? So let's say that you're good with it and you just want to stop it and you want to finish the data. So hit stop again. Now you'll see a view button. If you want to go in and see those other 6, you can click the view button and go in and re-edit your survey based on those 6 new additions that came in. The one thing you cannot do is once you hit start new evaluation, that's going to mean that it's next year and you're starting a new one. So as soon as you hit start new evaluation, you can't reopen the old one again. You can always view it and look at it, but you cannot accept more responses once you start a new one. So that blue button is like, this is a fresh entry, okay? And so Chad, if you click evaluation history right in the middle of your screen there, that white button, you can see that the evaluation Chad and I just did is in there. And if he clicks on that, he'll see, the evaluation, right? The one that we just worked on. So if he goes back to his dashboard, well, let's say that, sorry, you can do that, that's fine. So go back to all sports. And let's say that Chad now does the evaluation with his coach and they've met and they've done everything, they filled it all out. So go back to evaluation history a second and click on the date. And now they've done the whole thing and he's finished it. And he knows like, okay, now I'm done. I'm going to mark it as complete. So at the top, you see that green button up there. When you've got 8 sports in a season or something like that, and a bunch, 20 coaches or something like that, you need to know what you've completed and what you haven't. So when you click that, Chad, mark it as complete, go back to dashboard and all sports. And you'll see that it's now turned green, meaning I'm good. I got that one done. The other ones that aren't green yet, I still got to work on those. So it's just a little feature that allows you a visual representation of what's been completed or not. And now if Chad starts a new one, which he can do, this might be next year now, so go ahead and click it. Now he's got a new one, just click out of there. And now you've got a new evaluation set up. And if you go to evaluation history, it still says this one until you finish those responses, okay? So once you finish that next year's responses, then you'll have 2 evaluations for that coach in there. So it becomes an online filing cabinet where you never have to worry about paper or where is those files or keep a file for every coach. It's all in there. So Chad, can you go back to dashboard a second? And then all sports. The last thing I want to show you before I open it up for questions or anything like that is if you go to edit by sample sport coach, so like sample sport and then edit. So this is where like sometimes you might have a coach who coaches for you. Maybe that coach is going to have a baby for a season, so they're going to not be the coach. You can make them inactive, right? And then you can reactivate them, so you'll never lose that coach's data. As long as you make them inactive. If you try to delete the coach, so you can hit delete a minute, there's a little safeguard there where you have to type in the coach's name exactly right. So I tried to build it so that, there's always a way back into an evaluation, and there's always a way to make sure you don't make a mistake and delete somebody on accident. You have to like confirm everything. So there's always kind of a safeguard there to help you. So we don't want to delete this coach, so you can hit close, but I wanted to show you that you can make a coach inactive and bring them back later. or you can delete a coach if you know for sure you don't need that person's data anymore.
Hey, Kevin, Jim Oakler from Grow Zeal. I struggled there, turned my mic on. One of the questions I put in information was about the parent option, for that portion. Developing those questions and information would be able to work together, or do you have a baseline for that?
Yeah, most definitely. Chad, if you don't mind, you could give me the host back and I could share kind of what some of those questions are so people could see that. So I will show you real quick kind of what ours looks like. Now, again, we're a Christian school, so some of the wording may be a little bit different than what you would be accustomed to if you were not a Christian school. But I also want to show you what a normal dashboard looks like. So if you look at our fall season, you can see all of our coaches are in green because we've completed them. We know exactly that we're done with those. And then like winter, we're still in process with a lot of these. You can see the different amounts of students that have responded to these and parent surveys and things like that. So that's kind of what an active dashboard looks like. And then you can also see like, the value of mark as completed is helpful when you've got so many coaches that you're trying to monitor and pay attention to. So first, just wanted to show you that. Second, let me, this tab on the left here is called the survey tab. This is the survey that you would have populated in your dashboard. So you all basically have the same one in yours. It's just a generic grit leadership evaluation. It's like a basic one. Ours is more specific. I want to encourage every school here that if you want to use this, I'd like to create you your own template for your school. That might mean we change some wording, maybe we delete some questions, maybe we edit some questions, maybe we're going to change some of the written responses, but I want to make a survey for you that has this set format, but then also allows you to customize it to your unique environment, because no school is the same, no community is the same, and we all need slightly different things around the same idea. And so this is the survey section. You have this on your dashboard too, but I wanted to show you the parent section. So what we feel parents have what I feel parents have the right microphone to speak about would be some of these things. So number one, I was fully informed on what was happening. We require a weekly parent email on Saturdays from our coaches to every kid on their team, every parent on their team. So were you getting those? We want parents to respond on that. That's something we want to make sure coach is doing. Two, when changes occur, does coach do a good job of communicating? That's something parents should be able to communicate about and have a microphone about, because that's their interface with coach. Again, here, my observations, my coach made sure Christian character development, that's our term for spiritual development. Again, not everybody has that. So maybe it's just character development for you, was a prominent part of my child's experience. We feel like if it is, kids will be coming home talking about that with their parents. They'll be mentioning it. Today we did this, today we did this. So we feel like parents should be able to comment about the coach's ability to deliver in that way. The other things we feel like they should be able to talk about is, from their chair, what did it seem like coach valued the most? Number two, in what way has this experience helped them prepare for life after high school? What values is the coach bringing? This is a great way to empower your coaches, right? To show them like, hey, you're teaching these great things to kids. Number three there, I want coach to know they're doing a great job with. Okay, so allow parents to speak positively into our coaches. How often do parents speak positively into coaches? It's often negatively. And this was something as a coach I wanted to provide, because I know that I need that positive reinforcement to feel like I'm doing my job well as a coach. And so giving parents an opportunity to do that. The next one there is one that people always smile about, but understanding that comments about playing time, positions, play calling, or strategy will not be considered. I think coach could improve in the following ways. Because they're not in the huddles, they don't know the scheme, they're not in the film sessions, they don't get to decide on those things, and really shouldn't have a microphone for that. Now, if a parent does choose to violate the question, we just don't use the data, we just ignore it. But it does give them a chance to at least say whatever they want to say in that area. And then do you have any suggestions for our program? We would love for parents to know, like, we care about the program. It's not just a varsity team or something like that. Every parent usually has younger kids in the program somewhere too. So we want them to know that we care about all of those things. So those are the things that we allow parents to have a microphone about, to be able to tell us about it. And James, I hope that gives you a good idea of kind of what we try to do. And again, that's not necessarily the only way. It's just some of the things that we choose to talk about. So
Right, we do have kind of an outline in our athletic handbook for communication process, like most of us do. I was just kind of curious some of the other opportunities out there and a bit more research on it too. Perfect,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, and as Jason said, like we felt our culture shift because our parents know they have a place to speak about these things. They know that we're giving them a place to talk about it. We're also shaping their vision of what they should talk to coaches about. Over time, they get really used to seeing these are the ways I should communicate and have a microphone to coach. And we've reduced a lot of our parent negativity simply because they know they have a microphone, and two, they know what they're allowed to talk about, and we'll actually give credit to it. The other thing we tell the parents is if you're not willing to put your name on the survey, we delete it. It's an invalid survey. From a validity and reliability standpoint, there's nothing reliable if there isn't your name attached to it. So that's something that we communicate to parents too. We want them to speak up, but we want them to own what they speak about as well. Other questions? Thanks, James, for talking about the parent side of it. Other questions that somebody might have at this point about how to use that dashboard or how to be familiar with it?
Yeah, Kevin, Andy Hatt from Sturgis here. I was curious about, I can't remember, I don't know if you talked about it or somebody asked the question about mid-season, asking questions about like preseason, mid-season. I was curious as far as how the dashboard works. You said like start evaluation, stop evaluation. Like if you do a mid-season one, is that considered a different evaluation? I was just curious how that looked.
Yep, it definitely is. So what the evaluation history button will do is it always catalogs the year, like the date and time. So it won't say like preseason, it won't, but you'll know by the date when you send it, right? So I think you can see what I'm looking at here, but so if you did like a preseason, a midseason, and a postseason, you just send this survey however you choose to do that, and we can talk about that too, the best ways to do that. But you just send that out to the kids or whoever whenever you want, and each time that you finish it, it will log it in the evaluation history. And so, you know, I'll try to show you somebody who has been around a little long. I forget who mentioned that. Andy, did that make sense as far as how that would be organized? You'd be able to see it by date, and you can put as many in that online filing cabinet as you want.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if you needed to, like if you started one preseason or if you did a preseason one and then you did a mid-season one, if it would be a completely new evaluation or if it would be
a continuation.
Yeah.
They'd all be new. Yep. So when you hit that start new, that starts a new date in your online filing cabinet and a brand new set of data.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else with a question or observation they wanted to point out? Okay. Yeah, John, I saw you on mute. Did you have something?
Yeah, I think I just found the answer, but to add a question to like your existing survey, literally just under survey all the way at the bottom, new other question, and then does that just plug in? I guess, how does that work?
Yeah, I would say that typically when we do that, people work with me on it to make sure it gets in the right places and all that. You just kind of send it to me and say, hey, we'd like to add this to our expectation section. So can you delete this one, and add this one? And then from my end on your template, I'm able to just change it to make sure it all goes in the right spot and it all gets sorted the way that you want. I believe the functionality exists that you can add it yourself. But typically people have been emailing me to make sure it gets in the right places and all that, since I'm a little more familiar with the system. So.
And then the other question I had, so per the meeting up at the MIAAA, this is like a trial run, obviously, for us. Yep. But what was the cost, the yearly cost associated with this? Yeah,
so it depends on how many teams you're going to be using the system for. So, so basically, what we would talk about is how many varsity teams do you have? How many total teams do you have? Because as I was alluding to at that session, I purchased a server strong enough to handle the most possible connections to the server at the same time. So as I've added, 26 schools in the last week and a half, my server has now changed to a different level automatically to make sure it can handle all these things. So the cost goes up the more teams and access points there are. So there is like a sliding scale on the website that I have. There's a pricing page, which basically outlines like 1 to 10 teams or very close to 10 teams would be, a certain amount. And let me just share that screen with you so that you're familiar with what that looks like. So you can kind of zoom, you can see over here, this is the evaluation part, and that's the general pricing. I'm not going to charge my AAA people the support fee in the first year, next year, simply because I want people to try to use it and to be involved in it and see what it can do for them. So that would be the ongoing cost. And again, talk to me about it. What you need and what's going on with your school. And we want people to be able to use this, but I also have to make sure that I can support all of you using it as well. So does that help, John?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Kevin, for the number of teams, is that like, is baseball considered one team with like varsity and JV, or is varsity and JV 2 teams?
It's 2 teams.
Okay.
Yeah. So like our school, Grahams Christian, has 56 teams. Jenison High School, I think, has 62 teams. So they're in that top tier because each of those teams has 12 to 50 people on it. So each team has to be counted in the possible access point, because I don't want the system to ever crash on you. So that's why I have to make sure I have that certain type of server. So yeah. Hey, what I'd like to do is, I'd encourage you to now take this, print out, make a sample school, kind of like you saw, save that as a PDF and talk to that one coach or 2 coaches that you want to try to sample this with and say, hey, here's what we're looking at. This is what the marks we're trying to hit this year. We're kind of refocusing how we're doing this, and go with them so that they know what they're after, like what they're trying to do this year. Don't surprise them in May with this. So show them that. If you and that coach decide you want to adjust a few things, just send me an email with your adjustments, or if you want to talk about it, just let me know. But I want to get that set for you. And then in May, I'll offer another meeting like this to go over like, hey, here's how I talk to students before we give this, because it'll be new to students, right? It'll be new to coaches. It'll be new to parents if you decide to do parents. I'll offer another meeting in like mid-May at 1 o'clock like this. It just says, hey, let's come in. We'll talk about best practices of how to get this data out there. So that's what I would encourage you to do next, is kind of get that sorted out on your end with showing your coach that and sending me any edits that you want. The other thing I want to show you is there's a resource tab on your dashboard that if you click that, there's tons of videos, and all of that data will soon be migrated over to my new website so that any of your coaches can access any of that data very easily. Currently, the only people that can access the data are the people with an email address like you. So you can click this tab and it brings you to a resource page that I've built with articles, videos, the evaluation process, how to know what order to do things in and how to manage it. But it's just a great resource page for ways to impact your coaches and ways to make sure you're doing this stuff the right way. It's got websites and articles that are helpful to kind of help with leadership and those sorts of things. So I'm hopefully going to migrate that over, but in the meantime, you can access this if you just push that resource tab, if you're looking for some good information to send to people. Okay. So yeah, that's my hope, is that you can show this to a coach and get in touch with me with any changes you want. And then I'll send out another email in May and we'll work together on how to do this well for our spring coaches. If you got any questions, I'll stay on for a couple minutes. But thanks for coming. Thanks for being a part of this. And even just for assessing what you currently have, hopefully this helps you get a better version of whatever you're using to help kids and to help coaches. So thanks a lot. And I look forward to staying in touch with you over the next couple of months and hopefully years. So thank you.